Hey, I made a mistake. I am giving away 50 collector booster boxes of Commander Masters, but in my last video, I said I was doing that on September 4th for some reason. It's next week, it's August 4th, so just before we begin, I'm giving away 50 collector booster boxes to you on my Whatnot stream on August 4th, not September. You see, the month we're in now is July. I'm so tired. It's so much. Have you seen what's coming out? We're doing new release. They're doing Lord of the Rings again, so I got the date wrong, but yes, it is August 4th. I promise you, August 4th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 50 collector booster boxes are being given away by me to you. Just tune into the stream, and if you use my code at www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College, you get $15 to spend on anything you want on Whatnot, or just tune in, watch me do wild, crazy things, and give away 50 collector booster boxes. Thank you, Whatnot. Let's do the video. Pauper, one of the best budget formats of Magic the Gathering, as well as one of my personal favorites. The format where you play using only common cards, but common need not mean low power. In fact, Pauper uses so many classic cards from throughout Magic's entire history that many Magic the Gathering players affectionately refer to it as Legacy Light. From True Blue Counterspell to Lightning Bolt, Delver of Secrets to Core Skyfisher, and Monastery Swiftspear, Pauper is a format filled with many people's favorites. But wait a minute, Monastery Swiftspear, isn't that an uncommon? Well, in Double Masters, it was reprinted at common, and thus it is now Pauper legal, which is why a set like Commander Masters is so exciting for Pauper players, because it's filled with rarity downshifts to common, meaning many new classic Magic the Gathering cards are becoming legal in Pauper for the very first time, including even some cards that were first printed at rare. In Pauper, any card that has ever been printed at common is legal in the format, even if it is a card later reprinted at a higher rarity, such as Lightning Bolt, which was originally a common but later printed at uncommon. Well, that's Pauper legal. Masters sets in particular often see rarity downshifts, and since any card reprinted at the common level, even if it was originally uncommon, or even if it was originally rare, becomes Pauper legal. Take, for example, Crash of Rhino Beetles. Originally printed at rare in Commander 2018, this ridiculous 5/5 trampling insect for 5 that gets +10/+10 as long as you control 10 or more lands, was reprinted in Commander Masters at common, making it forever Pauper legal. But despite the fact that every Pauper Jund player will probably try this card just for the lulz, Pauper is too powerful a format for even a Commander rare like this to be competitive in. But fear not, because in addition to a lot of other powerful Pauper downshifts, there's one more rare which Commander Masters has made common. Back in 2010, the World Wake set was released. The middle set of original Zendikar block, World Wake was home to both some of the most famous and infamous cards in Magic's history. The set reads like a list of who's who when it comes to the most powerful cards of so many Magic the Gathering formats. Well, Commander Masters has gone so far as to take a rare from World Wake and downshift it to common. Has Wizards of the Coast lost their minds to take a rare from any set, let alone this set, and make it common, make it Pauper legal? Have they ruined the format forever? Again? Just what card have they unleashed upon Pauper? This World Wake rare, which is now Pauper legal, is a whopping 7-cost blue card. Oh no! Just imagine what 7 mana is gonna get you from a set like World Wake. Well, here it gets you an 8/7 Goliath Sphinx. A Sphinx with flying and, oh wait, that's all. That's it. That's it. It's an 8/7 flyer for 7. Oh, that card sucks. Well, there's plenty of actually good cards which have been downshifted to common from Commander Masters, and this video will cover the top 5 most powerful new common downshifts hitting the Pauper format via Commander Masters. There's some spicy new commons. It's just not Goliath Sphinx. And no ad, because I had to waste time telling you that my Whatnot stream where I'm giving away 50 collector booster boxes of Commander Masters is actually August 4th, not September 4th. So there you go, no ad. Except I guess that one, but come on, that's not really that bad. I'm giving you Commander Masters collector booster boxes, 50 of them. All right, let's get to the video. So what are the top new cards for Pauper via Downshift to Common from Commander Masters? Well, first, a true honorable mention, a rather famous card by the name of Guttersnipe. Guttersnipe is a 2/2 Goblin Shaman for 2 and a red that reads, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Guttersnipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. This is a card that has made a name for itself in other times in Magic's history, and so it's super exciting that this card is now common and therefore Pauper legal. But that excitement is mostly quelled once you realize there just isn't a good home for it in the format. The problem is that Guttersnipe is just too expensive for burn decks, and by the time we hit turn 3, we will already have gone wild with lava spikes and lightning bolts. And besides, Pauper burn already runs its share of firebrand archers and thermo alchemists, who, while not doing 2 damage, will still far outpace Guttersnipe in the long haul since they come out a whole turn earlier. Guttersnipe would be great in a storm deck theoretically, but with Grape Shot being banned in Pauper, there's really not much in the way of options there. I could see fooling around with it in a Goblin Storm build, but Goblin Storm decks are extremely fringe. And besides, if you're looking to combo off with Gobos, regular Goblins does that, thanks to cards like First Day of Class and Skirk Prospector, as Spice 8 Rack learned in its Pauper match against me and Sam.
All right, let's go. Goblins win, baby. Goblins top tier deck.
The only option left would be to think about a Stormless Storm build. But remember, Guttersnipe is only going to trigger off of spells being cast, not copied. So if we are going to play around with it in Stormless Storm, the plan is to try and get it out ahead of the initial casts, and simply use the damage it inflicts as a way to help the overall payoff bring down our opponents. And maybe some intrepid brewers will be able to get there, but I fear that as cool as it is to have Guttersnipe in the Pauper format, this is a card that is going to have to wait on the shelf until we get some new Pauper cards that actually need it, and thus it is relegated just to an honorable mention. But Commander Masters does bring in some really relevant Pauper downshifts, so let's move on to the main list. Coming in at number 5 is a downshift whose meaning is perhaps a bit cryptic, and that card is Cryptic Serpent. Cryptic Serpent is a 6/5 serpent for 5 of any color and double blue, but this spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Cryptic Serpent actually slots directly into another top deck of Pauper, Dimir Terror, but don't think that it's replacing Tolarian Terror anytime soon. These 2 cards are similar in many ways, but Terror still outpaces Serpent, as Terror costs 6 and a blue compared to Serpent's 5 and 2 blue, which means Serpent is never going to be reduced below 2 blue mana. Even though Serpent has an extra power point at 6/5, that doesn't really change the clock on an empty board. And where Serpent really doesn't hold up in comparison is that it lacks Terror's Ward 2 ability. But that doesn't mean we don't want to consider Serpent for this deck, because it's not replacing Tolarian Terror, it's adding in some redundancy on top of it. I think Serpent is going to be Terror's number 5 through 8. The spells in this deck are already well positioned, so where we might look to slot in Serpent is by replacing a few Gurmag Anglers. Gurmag's Delve ability fights over the graveyard cost reduction of both Terror and Serpent, so I think a lot of testing is going to be done swapping out this famous fish for these spicy serpents instead. Coming in at number 4 on our list is Sulfurous Blast. Tired of those pesky 3 toughness creatures? Well, this pick has the potential to force decks to play more diverse threats. Sulfurous Blast deals 3 damage to each creature and player for only 2 and double red. And while of course we are included on that list, that's a price I think we're going to be willing to pay, especially when that price means we'll be blowing up the rest of the board. A lot of decks in Pauper currently build around 3 toughness creatures to avoid the 2 damage sweepers that are prevalent in the format, but with Sulfurous Blast, creatures such as Dawnbringer Cleric, Poor Skyfisher, Thorn of the Black Rose, and Sunscape Familiar, as well as many, many more, are now vulnerable to our blasting board wipe. The question, as always, remains where to put a card like Sulfurous Blast. One possible deck is Jeskai Ephemerate, a solid pauper list that exclusively plays creatures that get their value when they enter the battlefield. Blast having a symmetrical angle of attack is therefore not of great concern here, and the game plan can be to keep the board at pace while you churn all of your value engines and scale up into the late game. We can even get creative and swap out cards like Archaeomancer for Mnemonic Wall to retain some of our defenses. Wall can survive the blast, and for that extra 1 mana, we'll just Ephemerate Wall instead to restock our hand. While I doubt very much that Sulfurous Blast will destroy the current metagame, the card now being pauper legal has major future implications. Having a 3 damage sweeper in the format will undoubtedly affect creature choices and deck building for years to come. While it may be a bit lower on our list, that doesn't mean that Blast is soon to be forgotten. Our number 3 pick is a card that a lot of the pauper community has been putting in the number 1 and number 2 spot, and that's All That Glitters. While I share their enthusiasm, I think we've got 2 spicier picks above it, but that in no way diminishes what a great addition to the format this card is. For 1 mana of any color and a white, you get an enchantment aura that reads, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and/or enchantment you control. If you weren't sick of Bogles and pauper, buckle up, because it's going to get a whole lot worse, as All That Glitters makes this deck a whole lot better. The 2 cards to compare Glitters to are Ancestral Mask and Armadillo Cloak. Both are mainstays of Bogle's builds for a reason. Mask grants +2/+2 for each other enchantment in play, which can get out of hand fast, and Cloak offers both Trample and Pseudo Lifelink, essential keywords for winning in this pauper meta. All That Glitters may not make our creature as big as Ancestral Mask, but the fact it only costs 2 mana value instead of 3 is worth the slight power level difference. It's not uncommon to have Mask stuck in your hand because you never find a 3rd land, or even to have Cloak stuck in your hand while you try for both a green and a white. But Glitters drops down nice and easy and on curve. Mask might give more of a boost, but reliably casting All That Glitters for +4/+4 is better than sometimes casting your Ancestral Mask for +8/+8. Your fail rate of missing your 3rd land drop is higher than you might think. You're a 17 land deck that doesn't have space to draw a lot of cards. For this reason, I think Ancestral Mask is probably going to be swapped out for All That Glitters. But Bogles isn't the only deck that might want this card. Heroic decks, favorites of mine, might also benefit from All That Glitters as they have more incidental synergy with artifacts. They produce more artifacts via cards like Thraben Inspector, and don't need to worry about splashing black if they want to try putting All That Glitters on a Vault Scourge. Scourge already has lifelink to face the Kuldotha Menace, and flying to go over the heads of chump blockers. Not to mention that Scourge is itself an artifact for calculating All That Glitters power and toughness bonus. And while we're mentioning artifacts, I can even see a great argument for affinity lists to play around with All That Glitters as well. Imagine slamming an All That Glitters on one of our indestructible bridges that was made into a creature via Kenku Artificer. Step aside, Bogles, because a giant flying bridge is about to slip on by. Is that better than a Bogle? Or more annoying than one? Well, either way, don't be surprised to get glitter all over yourself in the pauper leagues. How could there still possibly be not 1 but 2 cards that are spicier downshifts than All That Glitters? Well, let's take a look at number 2. I expect big things from our number 2 pick, and that's because our number 2 pick is indeed big. It's Lotleth Giant. Lotleth Giant is a 6/5 zombie for 6 and a black, but with a spicy enter the battlefield undergrowth ability, which deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature in our graveyard. The immediate shell, besides, I guess, zombies, that Lotleth Giant calls out to is Reanimator, a strategy that uses Tormenting Voice and Faithless Looting to dump creatures like Ulamog's Crusher and Eldrazi Devastator into graveyards, and then reanimate with Exhume. Reanimator graveyards are, naturally, filled with reanimation targets. Never mind the game enders, a pauper Reanimator graveyard is also going to have handfuls of Insolent Neonates and Stinkweed Imps. By hitting Giant as our reanimation target, we get to blast our opponent for anywhere between several and a lot of damage. But there's a bit more than just that. Reanimation lists also tend to run Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath costs 1 and a red to enchant a creature and give it both haste and fire breathing. But what's really neat is that when a creature with mana value 6 or greater enters the battlefield, you may return Dragon Breath from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. The idea here being that in dumping creatures into our graveyard, if we have at least 1 Dragon Breath in there, it can attach itself to our Lotleth Giant. The 6/5 now has haste and fire breathing on top of the damage that it will inflict on our opponent based on the number of creatures currently in the graveyard. And that's pretty good, right? I mean, maybe it is a weird pick for number 2, at least without a reanimation spell that can be activated from our graveyard without spending any mana. Wow, could you imagine if we had a reanimation spell that could be easily activated from our graveyard without spending any mana? Well, then Lotleth Giant would get a lot better, justifying a number 2 spot on this list. Oh well, anyway, coming in at number 1 is a reanimation spell that can be activated from our graveyard, which, thanks to Lotleth Giant now being pauper legal, opens up some wild new pauper possibilities. That number 1 card? It's true, Lotleth Giant only made the number 2 spot thanks to the existence of our number 1 pick. Without a doubt the most exciting and powerful pauper downshift from Commander Masters, Dread Return. Dread Return is a sorcery for double black and 2 of any color that says return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. But by sacrificing 3 creatures, you can flash it back from your graveyard, meaning that you need no mana, only some sacrificial lambs to bring this spell into play. Dread Return is so exciting because it's going to bring a particular deck from casual pauper favorite to legitimate and reliable threat. And that deck is One Land Spy. One Land Spy is a pauper deck designed to flip your library into your graveyard and win with graveyard effects like Haunting Misery, which deals X damage to target opponent, where X is the number of creatures in your graveyard. And with One Land Spy, that number of creatures is above 20 because the deck runs 24 creatures, and again, you dump your entire library into the graveyard. While the deck can vary a bit from build to build, One Land Spy accomplishes putting your entire library in your graveyard by running only 1 land, a lone forest which it can find with Land Grant, and then casting Balustrad's Spy through a variety of fast mana cards. Spy allows you to target yourself, and since you have no lands in your library, once you've tutored up the lone forest, the result is putting your entire library into your graveyard. But thanks to cards like Acorn Harvest and Dreadscape Zombies, you can now flash back Dread Return and target Lotleth Giant for an extremely very lethal Undergrowth trigger. But bringing back Pauper's own version of Oops All Spells isn't the only thing these 2 cards can do in the format. Tortured Existence decks just got a lot better and a lot more lethal thanks to the combination of the 2. If you haven't seen my video on Tortured Existence, you can check it out for the full details of how the deck works. But the short of it is that by using its namesake card, Tortured Existence, a common enchantment that costs a single black, you spend black to discard a creature card and return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. The idea is to use this discard ability to dredge your deck into your graveyard via Stinkweed Imp and Golgari Brown Scale. And then, just as with One Land Spy, once we've filled up our graveyard with creatures, flashback Dread Return and reanimate Lotleth Giant for a lethal blast. The 2 even work in tandem in those reanimator lists. Probably not outright replacing Exhume, but certainly augmenting it and giving better reliability to our reanimation strategy. In many ways, you can look at Lotleth Giant and Dread Return as coming in a weird tie for both the number 2 and number 1 spots. Apart, they are awesome additions to the format, sure, but together, they stand head and shoulders above all the other downshifts we've seen so far. And despite never having been printed at rare, certainly they are a lot better than Goliath Sphinx. You know, pauper really is one of the best ways to play Magic the Gathering. It never rotates, and best of all, top-tier decks can be built in paper for about $20 to $40. Build a deck featuring cards from throughout Magic's history, going all the way back to the very first Magic the Gathering set, classics, even some cards that are banned in formats like Modern and Legacy. You get to play with them in pauper. You can be your own deck brewer, or just check out some top popular decks to play against friends with. If you haven't seen my pauper episodes of Shuffle Up and Play, such as with Spice 8 Rack or Andrea Mengucci. You should totally check those videos out. It's a fantastic format and extremely affordable. And you know what else is affordable? The very free boxes of Collector Masters that I'm giving Commander Masters. I'm not retaking it. It's Commander Masters. 50! I'm giving away 50 boxes. I didn't buy them. Whatnot gave them to me. And they said, what do you want to do with 50 boxes? I said, I want to give them away. All right. We're going to do that on August 4th. August 4th at 12 o'clock Pacific. Tune in and you might get picked to get one of those 50 collector booster boxes. It's the full box, all 4 booster packs sealed up. Why is there only 4 packs? Oh my God. But free is better than free. You can't beat free. Anyway, and you also can't beat $15, which you get a $15 credit if you use my code at www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College. Just go onto someone's stream or mine, buy it now, Magic the Gathering cards, or bid on something. It's great. And maybe you'll get a free Commander Masters Collector Booster Box, which I'm giving away on August, not September, August 4th at 12 p.m. I guess I gotta give away something cool on September 4th just because there's gonna be like at least one person who's like, I heard it was September. So I gotta figure that out, but see you August 4th?
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Today, it's something new with someone old. I've brought the gang back together to bring in their new Commander decks.
Yeah, my name is Lexi, otherwise known as Black Girl Mage. I have brought Kyler.
My name is Voxy. I brought Yarick the Desecrated.
I, of course, am playing a brand new deck that I just got in the mail. It's Secret Lair Heads I Win, Tails You Lose.
I'm Amy the Amazonian, and I'm playing Xanathar. And I'm not playing my deck, I'm playing yours. How this is gonna work is I'm just gonna take a peek here.
I don't even get to see.
You don't get to see. Oh, cool, Hornet Queen.
Wow!
Draw your attention to the fact that I've mined the battlefield.
You don't have banana.
I didn't have to draw her attention to that. What does the divinity counter do?
I don't know.
What?
I don't care.
I'm going to destroy target artifact, whatever profs thing is that you stole.
Hey, that was mine.
You're welcome for giving it back.
But it's in my graveyard.
Pass it to, well, you're welcome. Pass the turn.